Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome back to Children's Church. All this month we've been talking about what's a prophet, and today we are in the book of 2 Kings, and we are greeting an old friend who we talked about in our first lesson. But this is after that. We're now in the book of 2 Kings, that's right, there's two books of the Kings, chapter 5, and we're talking about the prophet Elisha. Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master in high favor, because by him the Lord had given victory to Syria. He was a mighty man of valor, but now he was a leper. That's an illness that people would avoid because it was very contagious. That's not familiar at all. Now the Syrians on one of their raids carried off a little maid from the land of Israel, and she waited on Naaman's wife. She said to him, "Would that my lord were here with the prophet who's in Samaria. He would cure him of his leprosy." So Naaman went in and told his lord, "Thus spoke the maiden from the land of Israel." And the king of Syria said, "Go now, and I will send a letter to the king of Israel." So he went taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and about 10 festal garments, which is a really fun word to say, I'm just going to say. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, which read, "When the letter reaches you, know that I have sent you Naaman, my servant, that you may cure him of his leprosy." And when the king of Israel read the letter, he rent his clothes and said, "Am I God to kill and make alive, that this man sends word to me to cure this man of leprosy? Only consider how he is seeking quarrel with me." But when Elisha, this man of God, heard the king of Israel had rent his clothes, he said to the king, saying, "Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come to me now, that he may know there's a prophet in the land of Israel." So Naaman came with his horses, his chariots, his servants, his garments, his gold, his silver, all up to Elisha's door. And Elisha sent a messenger saying, "Go wash in the river Jordan 7 times, and you will be made clean." But Naaman was angry, and he went away, saying, "Behold, I thought he would surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord your God, and wave his hand all over the place and cure me. Aren't there better rivers in Damascus than all the waters of Israel? Could I not wash in them and be clean?" So he turned and went away in a rage. But his servants came near and said, "Sir, if the prophet had commanded you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much rather then when he says to you, 'Wash and be clean'?" So he went down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan River, according to the word of the man of God, and his flesh was restored like the flesh of a child, and he was clean. And he returned to Elisha, and he returned with his company, his gold, his horses, his chariots, his silver, his garments. He said, "Behold, I know there is no God in all the earth but in Israel. So accept now a present from your servant." But he said, "As the Lord lives, whom I serve, I will receive none," and urged him to take away his gold, his silver, his chariots, his horses, his servants, his gold, his silver, and his garments. He didn't want any of them. He was just doing what God said. Then Naaman said, "If not, I pray you, let there be given to your servant 2 mules burden of earth, for henceforth your servant will not offer burnt offering or sacrifice to any god but the Lord. In this matter, may the Lord..." I'm going to stop there because it's a very long description. But Naaman didn't know God. Naaman didn't believe in God. But Naaman wanted to be healed so bad that he went to his king for permission and then traveled to another country to try and be healed. All because one girl from Israel knew the truth, that the prophet could heal him. So Naaman went, and he didn't want to do the silly thing that the prophet or God told him to do. God was speaking through Elisha. And they said, "But if he told you to do something really big, you'd have done it." So Naaman obeyed. And he washed in the Jordan River 7 times, which he didn't want to do because it was a dirty river and it's kind of gross, and he didn't want to. But he did it anyway, and he was healed. And that's generally the lesson that people like to take from Naaman, is sometimes God tells us to do things that we don't want them. I don't want them. I'm going to go home. I'm going to take my horses, my chariots, my gold, my silver, my garments, my servants, and go home. Now, if Naaman had actually done that, if someone hadn't gone, "Hey, Naaman," he would have stayed a leper. And I'm not going to go into gross details, but leprosy leprosy gets worse the longer you have it. So he decided to obey, and he did what God said. And God did what God does, and he healed him. So remember, Elisha was stubborn and obedient when he followed Elijah all the way to the end. And then Naaman had faith in the prophet, and he was obedient even though he didn't want to do it, and he was healed. So those are the things I want you to take away from that. And remember, sometimes you will be offered gold and silver and chariots and horses and silver and gold and garments. And you're going to go, no, thanks. I'm all set. I'm good. I've got God. I will see you guys next week for another prophet, a new prophet. Love you.